Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I am filming my October wrap-up and I am going to try to do it pretty quickly without like a lot of stats, but if you follow me on Storygraph you can see a little bit more of that, and I will try to edit in a little bit of my Storygraph stats. I did read 28 books, a few 2 stars, a lot of 4 stars, and maybe a couple of 5 stars. But mostly 4, 4.5, still good books, just not like really 5-star reads. And if you see me looking over here, it's because I will be looking over at my book journal. So just to give a little bit more detail, so I know like the order of the books, the order that I read these books in. And I also did participate in the trick-or-treat-a-thon, and I almost blacked out my board, but I didn't start my 500 book. I should have started my book that was 500 pages like the first week, and I did not. And so I did not get to the 500 plus pages prompt, but I got to every other prompt. So there is my board, and I will start off with the first book of the month was White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. And this book was so good. I did rate it a 4.5, but I might bump it up to a 5, I don't know, but still so good. It was like a paranormal ghost story. Her parents won this house for free to live in for a few years, and she had some troubles in her past, and they were just going to start over as a family. And of course, a free house has some things wrong with it. So yeah, it was a really haunted house. Like, had the vibe of, is this really a haunted house or not? And it was just really creepy and atmospheric, and just a good amount of suspense. Next, I read The Southern Vampire's Guide to Slaying Vampires, and I did give this 4 stars. Honestly, I know everybody loves Grady Hendrix, but I haven't had like a 5-star book, and it wasn't really scary. It was just creepy, but I mean, it's vampires, so yeah, it was really creepy in that sense, and like a little bit disturbing and grossed out, but it's a little bit longer than I like my books to be, and I do recommend it for sure, and it's a good book to read in the summer or in the fall, so that's really nice. I don't really have too much to say about this, but just a 4-star and a pretty good book that I do recommend. And I seriously love the cover of the hardback and the paperback. So, and then next I read a graphic novel, and it was Fangs, and it was the cutest little graphic novel. Did rate that 5 stars, but there's not much to it. It's just about a vampire and a werewolf relationship, and I really would read it every single October. It was that good. Loved it. Next, I read There's Someone Inside Your House, so I could watch the Netflix movie, and this was a pretty good YA slasher, and I know some people don't like it, but I, kind of was in the middle of the road and gave it a 3 stars. The main character is living with her grandma and trying to kind of escape her past and start over, and then her past kind of comes back to haunt her in this new town. And then next was a book that I seriously did not enjoy. That was Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. I gave that a 2-star. I do not think Stephen Graham Jones is the author for me. I have tried multiple books by this author, and just not my thing. It's a novella, mannequins come alive, it's a slasher. That's about it. The next was The X Hex by Aaron Sterling. I read this for the Sugar and Spice Book Club, and I would have read this anyway because it is the perfect romance for October. I know a lot of people read this book. A lot of people had mixed opinions about this book. They didn't really like it, didn't think it was a romance. I on the other hand, gave it a 4-star, and I really enjoyed it. This is the pen name for Rachel Hawkins. the writer of The Wife Upstairs, and this is her, I don't know if it's her like first adult romance or if this is going to be like her adult romance pen name or not, but I definitely would read more from this author. The romance from this author, I really enjoyed it. It had a talking cat, it had some ghosts, it had like a fall festival, like just all of the Halloween things, and I really liked it. Next, I read the third volume of Heartstopper, and again, I gave that 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed Heartstopper, and I cannot wait to get my hands on book number 4. And I really do recommend the series as a whole so far. And then next I read I Know Who You Are by Alice Feeney, and after this there will be an Alice Feeney ranking video up on my channel. And unfortunately I didn't really love this book, but it was pretty good. It was about an actor, and I read a lot of books where like people start over, so nobody knew who she was or how like her childhood or anything about her childhood, and then that kind of comes back to haunt her, and also her husband goes missing, and she literally just keeps acting and working and acting like nothing is wrong and that her husband is not missing. So that was a little bit crazy. Overall, I did give this a 3 stars though. Not my favorite, but still did enjoy it some. And then I read Everything We Didn't Say. This just published on November 2nd. This was my book of the month for October, and this is marked as a thriller on book of the month, and they're usually mismarked on book of the month, unfortunately, but it still was a good mystery suspense book, and I do recommend it. I gave it like a 3.5, I would say. And when Juniper was 19, her brother got kind of accused of this murder, but he never got sent to jail or actually, the murder, like not actually convicted of the murder. So then she has a daughter at that age, but her parents are raising the daughter, and after she has her daughter, she leaves town. But then like 18 years later after the murder, she comes back to town and she tries to solve the murder kind of like herself and see, did my brother really do this or not? Like I said, a really good suspense kind of mystery, and I do recommend. It was pretty good. All right, and the next one that kind of really disappointed me was Pet Sematary. I still gave it a 3 star, but again, not the author for me, I think. Stephen King. I don't know, but for some reason I was really hyping this up to be like so scary, but it was not that scary. Unless I'm just not really scared easily. I don't know. But I am interested in watching the movie, and it was pretty good. This was my first Stephen King ever. So, I mean, I could try his other books maybe, but we will see. For right now, I'm just gonna give it a break, and really glad that I read Pet Sematary though, and going to watch the movie sometime soon, I hope. Right after Pet Sematary, I read Lie to Me by J.T. Ellison. This is a little bit like Gone Girl, but Gone Girl's honestly better. I gave this a 3.5 stars, and like I said, it is a little bit about Gone Girl, or a little bit, like Gone Girl, and it is a domestic noir at its best. So not really like super, thrilling, and not really a lot of twists until the end. It's pretty like a slow burn, and it was pretty good in the first half, but started going downhill. It is about Sutton and Ethan, and their life is not how it appears, and Sutton goes missing, obviously, and then there is a body found, and you have to find out whether it was her body or not, and that's all I'll really say about that. I read this for a book club that I can't remember the name, but I will put the book club here, and Jessie her book club. I don't know why I can't remember the name. But yes, I will put the name here and link her channel. All right, and then I read The Nature of Witches, which I have here. I did put it back on my shelf because I will be keeping these. All of these other books I will possibly be unhauling. I usually do unhaul a good amount of books at the end of the month. But The Nature of Witches, I really, really liked. I did give it a 4-star, probably 4.5 actually. And I seriously, I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. The audiobook was pretty great, and it is about this witch. She is a ever witch, I believe. Yes, an ever witch. And she can kind of control all of the seasons, or is like strong in all of the seasons. And other witches, if they are like fall witches, spring witches, they only are strong in that season. And there's a sapphic romance in here. And I don't know, it was just really, really, I don't know, it was just really, really good, and I do recommend. And also, this book is so gorgeous if you have not seen, and there is another book coming out with other artwork, I believe. This was just like the first edition. And like I said, I do recommend this YA book, and have really been enjoying YA recently. And next, I don't have that book, but it is Horrified by Katrina Leno. This was one of my fall TBR, and I wanted to get to it last October and didn't get to, but I finally did get to the audiobook this October, and honestly, I could have skipped it. I don't know. It was good. I gave it a 3-star, but like I was expecting something major and this book to be really, really good, but to me it was just 3 stars. So I guess I'm glad I read it, but I just was really hyping it up, and then it actually wasn't that great. But it is about this girl and her mom, and they move back to an older house where her mom grew up, and some creepy stuff starts happening, like roses are alive in the middle of winter. There's just like rumors about her house already in the town, and rumors about her family, so she kind of finds out that, and it's just her going through the life of living in this creepy house and town that people like already know so many things about her house and the town she lives in, but she doesn't know any of them, so it's her discovering those things. I guess if you're interested, definitely still try to read this book, but just don't go into it expecting like this amazing YA horror book. All right, and then I have a huge disappointment, and it's a disappointment to a lot of people, and I gave this book 2 stars, A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee, and it's supposed to be like a witchy, dark academia, like it's just pitched as like such good story, but then like it's none of that. There is a witchy aspect, but it's like so much in the background that I don't like. It's just like so hyped up that it's like witchy and like all of these things, but all of the things that are hyped up about it are like in the background of the book. So it just wasn't my favorite thing. It took me forever to read. I was not excited every time I picked up this book. I wish I would have DNF'd it, but I bought it at full price, and I wanted to read it for the Full Moon Book Club, which I did. So they were disappointed in it as well in the discussion. But I mean, get it from your library. That's what I will say. All right, and then next I read Ace of Spades. Finally, the audiobook was so good. I really liked like the different parts of the book, and it was a slow burn. I gave it like a 4 stars, I believe, and it was just like a pretty slow book, but that third part really redeemed it for me, and I really enjoyed it in the end. Definitely recommend that book. And then I just was really in the mood for a romance because of all of the mystery and horror and thriller books. So I read a sports romance, and it is Intercepted by Alexa Martin. I have been wanting to read this book for so long, and now I've read it, and I'm so excited to continue the series, hopefully in November or December. And I'm starting to like sports romances because I liked The Deal. I liked this. Like, give me all the sports romance recommendations because I loved that one. So that was 4 stars, and the main character and her boyfriend have been together for like 10 years, and he hasn't asked her to marry her, and like, he was just a piece of crap man, and she finally left him, and the story goes from there, and she ends up finding a great man, and it's just such a good story. Really, really liked it. Highly recommend this romance. And then I read Too Good to Be True by Carola Loverine. And this was another book of the month pick that I was excited that I finally got to. And I seen some like kind of average, pretty bad reviews for this, honestly, but I had the unpopular opinion of actually really enjoying this and giving it 4 stars. It has 3 different points of views in it, and I don't want to give away too much for sure, because this book, like, you don't want to give away a lot, but it does have 3 points of views, and Sky Sterling is overjoyed when her boyfriend Burke Michaels proposes after a whirlwind courtship, and it's about Sky and Burke and another woman, Heather, and I don't want to give away too much, but if you really are into like domestic thrillers, I do highly recommend this book for sure, and I'm really glad that I didn't put this off any longer. And on the back here, I will read it. It says 1 love story, 2 marriages, 3 versions of the truth. And that is too true and really explains this book. And then I read Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. This book has been everywhere, so I don't want to give away too much, but it takes place in the 2000s, and it has I am messages. I don't know too much about that, but the whole time I was reading this, which I read it in like an hour or an hour and a half or so, the whole time I was reading this, I felt like I was like spying on these people that weren't even real. It was crazy. And this book was the weirdest, most disturbing book I have read in a very long time. And I gave it a 4 stars, but I might bump it up to a 5. Like, who knows? Like, this was a crazy ride. I think I did it 4 stars because I accidentally got spoiled somehow. I don't know where I got spoiled for this. Maybe Instagram, maybe Booktube, I don't know. But I accidentally got spoiled for the twist. But it still was like the weirdest, most disturbing book by the end of the story. So just read this book and tell me what you think of it. And then I read The Patient by Jasper DeWitt. I rated that 4 stars. That was another book that I was expecting to scare me, but it did not scare me like at all. But it was still really good, short, so I don't want to say too much. I talked about it. I feel like I talked about it in another video on my channel, but I talked about it in my library haul. So if you want to know what it is about, definitely check out my library haul. It is about this psychologist, and there is a patient in there that has been in there since like 6 years old, and he is like, why has this patient been in here for so long? Like, this guy seems like normal. Like, what is wrong with this? And then you realize why he is really in there. So, good short book. I really like those short books this month. And then lastly, I read Emma in the Night, or not lastly, but next I read Emma in the Night by Wendy Walker, and this has been on my TBR for so long. Yes, it's a book of the month book. I did not get it from Book of the Month. I got it from Half Price Books so long ago, so I'm very glad that I actually, read this. Unfortunately, I'm giving it like a 2 star, 3 star maybe. It just was very average and really boring. So it has like a lot of the detective in there, and I don't know, like, I do want to try more books by Wendy Walker, that like her newer books, but this one was just not it for me. And then I read a lot of graphic novels, so I will just say all of those at once because I do not have that much to say about them. I'm like, they're good, but I guess I'll start with my favorite graphic novel that I read, which was Mooncakes. That was my favorite one of the 4 that I will talk about, because that one, I don't know, that one just seemed like the best. Like, I don't know how to like explain what graphic novels are too about, because you don't want to give anything away, and I don't really know how to like say my thoughts about graphic novels because that's not like the main thing that I read, and I don't know a lot about them. But I will say my favorite one was Mooncakes, and then I read The OK Witch, which was a middle grade graphic novel, and I just realized that there was a second one, so I will be reading that probably next fall. And that was just a cute middle grade. And then I read Sheets and Delicates, which were cute, but also had some like harder, deeper topics in them. And I rated those 2 3 stars. I rated The OK Witch 4 stars and Mooncakes 5 stars. All right, and then I read Those Girls by Chevy Stevens. I gave that 4 stars, and I'm really happy that I read that. That was for the prompt, the oldest like book on my TBR, and Chevy Stevens is who got me into really reading mystery and thriller books, and I'm happy that I read another book by her and really enjoyed it. It is about these 3 sisters, and they were really getting abused by their dad and ended up killing their dad and running away. But then while they were running away, some things happened to them, and it just goes like along just them trying to survive this. Like, they're like 15, 16, 17, something like that, like, or maybe 14, like they're all in their like teen years, and it just goes about them just trying to survive and start over basically. And if you have not read any books by Chevy Stevens, I highly recommend books by her, because she is what started my love for like mystery, thriller, suspense books. And my first book that I read from her was Still Missing, and I recommend that one. I've read Those Girls. I've read a good bit of her books and really have enjoyed all of them. And then let me see here. After that, I read The Girls Are Never Gone by Sarah Glenn Marshall. And I just saw another review on this by, I think, Gabby Reads, and she said it was more like an average YA thriller. And I have to disagree. I really liked that. I really liked this thriller book. It was like Sadie and The Conjuring, I think, is what it's compared to, and it has a little bit of a podcast element, and it has a dog in it, and the main character has type 1 diabetes, and I really enjoyed this. I thought this was a really good YA mystery thriller, so I do recommend it. And then I read The Glass Castle. This is kind of like a classic nonfiction memoir, and I do recommend this book. I do not rate nonfiction, but glad that I finally read it. Last book of the month was Rules for Vanishing by Kate Ellis Marshall, and unfortunately I gave this like a 3 star. It just wasn't really my favorite, but once a year a red appears, and this main character's sister disappeared, and it's about like the grief of her, but then her and a group of friends go on this road, and some things start to happen from there, and definitely I like the other world, like weird kind of like book like that, and I can appreciate it, but it just wasn't my favorite of those type of books, but it still was pretty good. So that was Rules for Vanishing by Kate Ellis Marshall, and thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I really appreciate it. Definitely like and subscribe, and thank you for hearing me talk about all of these 28 books. Thank you. Bye.